Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of the Family Business Podcast. Today, I have two amazing people in the studio, Keith and John Timmons with Timmons Family Farms. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm John.
Well, I look pretty good for 53, so.
Oh, there you
go. For 31, you look pretty rough.
Jake, you do some editing for me, right?
Yeah, makeup, touch up. So when we're talking about family businesses, we have Technique Roofing Systems, but we also have Timmons Farms. So let's talk a little bit about, Timmons Farms' origin and, how it started, and then kind of where it's at today and the evolution over the last 5 years and how you kind of came into the fold. We'll start with the origin story, which, you might have to reach a little back in the memory bank to pull that one out.
Timmons Farms was started, obviously, by two people that got together many, many years ago, and Elaine and John Timmons. They were neighbors beside each other. They grew up together, and they got married. And Dad worked for National Cytomen, and then from there he went, and he worked with a couple other fellas there. They owned a company, and also my Uncle Les. And from there they started crop and soil, and then I'm not sure exactly all the timelines and everything, but and right around 1974, so we moved out to the farm, and Dad started farming. It was pretty primitive the way I remember it, the tractors we had and the equipment we had. And then from there, obviously, Dad tried to grow his brand or his business, and I think most of it was just, a lot of hard work, cleaning up farms, and, the fields looked a lot different then than they do today. There's a lot of small ones today. Everything's cleared out, and it's more open, but, our journey was 1974. I was 5-6 years old. And so to me, farming was just what we did. I thought everyone did it. I had no idea anyone did anything differently. I thought the reason I was alive was to pick up rocks. So that was my goal. I'll pick up rocks, just go pick them rocks up, pick a lot of rocks up. And,
And by the way, you didn't do that good of a job because it seemed like we had to pick our rocks up in the same
like
place.
it seemed like I picked up a lot of rocks.
So it's like, did you pick up that many, back in the day? Or?
Well, when you pick up rocks, you think to yourself, I'm never going to make my kids do stuff like this. But then when you get older, you're like, that's exactly what I'm going to make them do.
I think the worst part is when we go to pick up rocks and we have to move rock piles that you put, and then we'd have to move those rock piles somewhere else. And it's like, I hope my kids don't have to move that rock pile again.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember when back then you had fence rows, so you threw everything in the fence row. But then after a while, we cleaned all the fence rows out, and then we moved them somewhere else. Well, then where we moved them that time, we said, we're going to farm a little bit more, so we're going to move that rock pile one more time.
Yeah,
so now we try to move them where we're never going to be. But
I always thought rocks were a byproduct of corn. Like
what,
that was like
up?
Yeah, just like that's what happened after you grew corn. There was rocks.
Yeah, I mean that's probably why you don't help us much on the farm anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It was like I don't want to be there. Yeah.
So farming started back then, and Dad did a lot, and Dad farmed, I think as much as he could. He was a full-time farmer, in the 80s, which I really remember the 80s. That's when I started getting a little older, and that was some tough times through there. And Dad did a lot of auctioneering, and we sold farms, and it was just terrible. I just remember the bad feeling we had seeing these guys sell out. So we did the auctions, and then Dad actually jockeyed farm machinery. So, I often tell people that everyone thinks there's this, I don't know what you call them, these modern men, they're stay-at-home dads. I'm like, I had a stay-at-home dad my whole life, and it was terrible because all we had to do was work all the time. And my dad knew I was at it all moment. I get off the bus, let's go, get off to school. So, it wasn't terrible like that, but I mean, I just like, gosh, I wish my dad had a job at Chrysler and worked midnights,
Yeah.
But so I was very fortunate, I spent a lot of time with my dad and did a lot of things with him because he was literally the first person them guys were stay-at-home dads basically. You didn't look at them like that because, they stayed home and they worked all the time. And heck, that's all I thought everyone did.
When he was he was still running the combine plant. You guys were always helping throughout the whole time, like during Technique Roofing's era in the past, 15, 10, 5, well, I mean, not 5, but 10 years.
In the 80s it was a tough time. So, we were graduating high school, and the farm could only support so many people. It only had we only had enough to do so much of an income level. I think that's what it was, and I just don't think that a lot of guys are fortunate to get that space where they can come in and contribute to it. There wasn't enough there for all of us to come in and try to be part of it, but yet live off of it. So we had to do something different, and I don't know if it was ever really spoke about between the dad and my brother and I, but it was something that you just knew, if I'm going to make it or do something, we got to do something different. And Dad was always supportive of us, and we went to work for, a couple outfits. And I don't know if if this is where it's going, but I mean, how we really kind of ended up off the farm was it was just, it was a need to make a living, and Kurt and I, started working for, like I said, for a different couple outfits. And from there, Dad was always like, well, if you're going to work for those guys, you might as well work on your own. I think he kind of learned that, in the farming, agriculture end of it, it was always like, you got to count on yourself. You can't count on this guy over here that's going to make you a living. If you really want to make it, you got to count on yourself. You got to believe in yourself. And so Dad was over a zealous cheerleader sometimes, I think, about, hey, yeah, go ahead and do that. He never really thought, you tell him something, he never really said, oh, that's not a very good idea. So he seemed to push us in a direction that's kind of how we ended up here a little bit. It was, hey, you need a truck, I'll help you get a truck. Hey, you need this, I'll help you do this. He never really is going to give us a specialty knowledge of what we were doing in our industry, but he was always going to give us that encouragement to go out and do it. Don't be scared to fail thing, and when you don't have much to lose, what's it really hurt, and the one thing we really got from them guys was hard work from my parents. And they were, if you work really hard at it and you keep your nose to it, you're going to be successful at it. But it don't happen overnight. You don't, and farming teaches you this. And I think I really use this in my business aspect of it. Is farming is, people say, well, you got to go out and sow your crop. I'm going to go out and sow my crop, but then I got to wait. I got to wait for God to give me his blessings of rain and sun and weather. I got to do everything right at the front end I can do. I got to be as good as I can be at it. I can't do it wrong. I can't knowingly do something wrong. I got to put it in really well, wait for the season to transpire, wait to fall to come in, and then there's my harvest. See, you never got to sow your crop and harvest it all in the same week. So, and that's how business is, I think. You got to sow your crop. You got to wait for it to come to tuition. And then maybe you can get, if you're lucky enough and God willing, you'll get a good harvest. Sometimes we get a good harvest, don't we, John? Sometimes we don't. This year looks like we might have a good harvest. Very blessed. Got a good harvest and good commodity prices. We got a lot of high input cost, but we're just blessed that we're going to have a good yield. And so I think the farming thing, for business thing, to go over it was, in the agriculture business, you have to be patient. Things don't happen overnight. It takes time for things to transpire. You're working with nature and growing things, and you need a little bit of luck, and you do it. And you got to be really careful how you put it in, and try not to keep your mistakes down to a minimum, and hopefully that down the road, it's going to be abundant harvest for you. And that's what business is. We got to do these little things right. That's like sowing our wheat. We got to wait for them to come back to us. Things don't happen right away. There's no self-gratification instantly. If that's what you're looking for, Business is a tough place to find it. And then maybe we get a good harvest, or maybe we sell a good job, or maybe we find a good client because we did all the things right. We sold it, we waited, we serviced it, we sprayed it, we talked to the customer, whatever it may be. It's the same thing in farming as it is in business. It's the same practices you use.
And John, so when did you start at Timmons Farms?
I mean, just like you, I mean, we started when we were young, but I mean, when I actually started was probably 3 years ago. I kind of took over as manager of Timmons Farms and been managing it with obviously Dad and Kurt helping, and that's kind of when it all happened. But before that, I mean, I was always planning and helping harvest and all that stuff. It ain't like I wasn't part of it at all. But that's kind of when a different role came in, and it's a lot of stuff that you never thought about, that when you do it, it's like, wow, this is like a lot more than just show up and jump in a tractor and plant some beans. So, and that's been...
It's not a country song, you're saying?
Yeah, the country song. It's like it's exactly like a country song, because everybody thinks that's what it is, but it's actually the back end of writing the song, producing the song, making the soundtrack for the song, and then that's the stuff no one sees of how hard it actually is. Not saying it's hard, but it's the back end stuff and making sure you're organized and stuff. And that's the stuff no one sees, that, you know, everybody thinks farming's just tractors driving through the field, and it's a lot more than that. So.
It's because everybody's playing Farm Simulator.
Yeah,
So-
Farm Simulator.
So
yeah.
you would say that being it's when you're working for somebody else. I guess my question is for you: when you're working for somebody else, they're like, "Hey, you know, we're gonna go do this today, and we're gonna go do that today. And then when you get done with that, we're gonna do this, and you're gonna go here." But when you're trying to manage, like you said, it's like you're the guy that now has to be organized enough to say, we got to go here, 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 and here. And would you say that is one of the hardest things still?
Yeah.
To get yourself in front of the things you need to do.
Yeah, I think for me, the good way to put it would be, my old job, I went from being task oriented to now I almost have to be goal oriented. So I can't worry about certain tasks. I need to worry about the overall goal. And that was something that took a while for my brain to wrap around that. Like, a lot of times I wouldn't ask for help in the past. You know, when I first started, I would just go do something, and Dad and Kurt would be like, well, what are we doing? I'm like, well, I'm doing this. They're like, well, maybe your time could be somewhere else, and I could do that. And that took a little bit, and it's still being worked out. But that is, a lot of it is trying to switch the brain over, because it's hard when you're an employee your whole life, and then you got to jump to being a manager. It's a different mindset, and it takes some time to wrap your head around and stuff. But
Well,
yeah.
that too. You're not doing. You're there. It's your livelihood, and you
Yeah.
just don't like shut the door and walk through the gate and put your hard hat in the cubby
Yeah.
hole and go home at night. That's not this kind of business. This is
No.
with you. All you think about it all the time. You know, you lay in bed at night. You know, I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
not
mean-
saying people at work don't lay in bed think about the work at night either. But I mean, it's an impactful thing sometimes.
yeah, I mean, we worked, other than this yesterday or so, we've worked like 14 days harvesting, damn near, and we're still going.
Even
So-
got time for the podcast.
Hey, we
Yeah.
hauled corn all day yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, at least I did.
Yeah. So, and it's just, yeah, and you take this home too with you. It don't stop. So it's at home too. It's hey, I got to leave at 5 a.m, and I ain't gonna get home till 9 o'clock at night. And
You leave at 5 in the morning.
well, sometimes
I'm just kidding.
there are times, but that's a lot of things people don't see either. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, when you're managing something, you got to have some vision, right, and see down the road. And coming from my experience, when I gave up doing a big part of my job, you want to micromanage, but like, you just got to let someone do their job. So, but I think a reason people want to micromanage and continue to micromanage and are blind to the fact that they might be micromanaging is because they find their self-esteem in the fact that they know they can do better than somebody else, so they don't let it go. They get a sense of their self-esteem, sense of feeling good because they know they can do the job better, But just because somebody can do it only 80% as good as you doesn't mean that that's not good. You know, because you could do something else. So if you're going to scale anything in business and farming and, you know, your marriage, if it comes to like kids, raising kids, you can't do everything. You have to seek help.
Yeah, and that's been interesting for me, is to seek help, I guess. Sometimes I would take on more than I could, and Dad and Kurt would be like, why don't you just ask us? So, and that's something I've gotten better with, I would say, a little bit better. So,
Well, and life is messy, you know. So when you're working with a lot of family members, good for you if you're out here doing it, you know. And if you're out here every day working with family members, and it's a really tough thing to do, there's all these inner things playing on. So it's a lot easier just to, you know, bring people in and they work for you. But when you're working with family members, that is a you know, that's a juggling act. You know, it's you know, don't stop. You know, don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but yet you want them to know your expectations. And I think we really struggle with that sometimes in our operation, where, you know, being a father and then working with your son, you know, it's like, you know, I expect that to be better than that. You know, that's kind of how I sometimes look at it with him. I expect you to do better than that. Instead of like, if you were an employee, I'm like, well, you know, I guess that's all they're going to really give me. So, you know, it's a lot different when it's a family member and your expectations are a little bit higher than if you're just, and not to say the person's employee is a lesser person. That's not what I'm saying. It's my problem, you know, how I look at it, you know. Hey, I guess that's all they're going to give me, you know. But if it's someone in your family who's like, hey, here we are doing these things, building this thing for all our sakes, I would expect you, you know, to be right there with me on the struggle, you know. And sometimes if your perception may be that maybe that ain't the case, but I'm sure the reality is that it is. And it's just, you know, you're trying to do what you're trying to do and get done what you're trying to get done. And I think, you know, a person like myself has to realize that, you know, it ain't always going to happen the way I want it done. It ain't going to always happen the way I think it should be done. And it never should, because if you don't have that, if you can't disconnect from it and let it go, the other person is never going to be able to do it on their own, because they're always going to fall back to you. I often say, I tried to sell a roof to a guy one time not too long ago, and he was 91 years old. And his son was 68. And then his son worked for him. And it really hit home for me. His dad's 91 years old, pretty cognate, you know. And he has his stuff together, and he owns a building. And he's like, I want to do this, Keith. I want to do that. I want this roof to last a long time. Man, you're 91 years old, dude. And so I go in there.
30-year warranty.
Yeah, you know, I go in there, and I see his son in there working. And he's back in the back working. I go, oh, there he is. I'm going to go talk to him. He's 68 years old, mind you. I said, hey, you know, I'm helping your dad out. We're looking at the roof. What do you think about it? He goes, I don't know, man. I work for Dad. He makes all the decisions. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're 68 years old, and nothing bad about him or anything, but I don't want I don't think I'll make it to 91, but I don't want to be in that position, and if someone says, you know, hey, Dad's still making all the decisions. How's that a healthy situation? I can't believe it is.
I think if you want to grow, because for sake of there's more family members, you know, so like, and there's more people involved, and you don't want to just shrink, because like think of when you guys started Timmons Farms, you guys had to seek other places of income, because you can't all survive off of what it was. So if you're gonna build it to a point where like you can employ someone full time that's family on a farm, well, you're gonna have to grow, not just for sake of growing, but for sake of supporting what you're trying to, the foundation. And then from there you can, you know, improve and get better, and then grow or stay whatever size you want. But if you can't sustain, then you can't do it. You can't move forward.
And I think out in our communities here, that's exactly what's happening. You know, a lot of people are growing to bring that next member in, and be able to, you know, move the needle for, you know, more people to live off that, you know, operation. So,
And farming specifically, you're saying?
Yeah, farming specific, definitely farming specific. I mean, I don't know the industry is, like, super, super well, but I mean, I've been in it my whole life. So I would say, that's definitely the case of, trying to build it out to, do different, be more diversified, whether they're raising not agriculture, but raising animals and, production, stuff like that, pig barns, turkey barns, chicken barns. You got all sorts of things going on. People trying to diversify in fruits and vegetables and diversify off the farm of, produce and stuff like that. And to their credit, I mean, that's really hard work. And that's someone that's really committed to what they're doing, growing these specialty items and trying to, have a larger income to have more bodies in that organization, and really putting himself out there.
Like, what are you looking to do over the next five years or so? 3
Well,
to 5 years?
I mean, ever since 3 years ago, since I've been in a role of manager, we've grown every year, whether it be purchasing ground or getting some ground to rent. So that's hopefully continue that growth. I mean, we've grown, probably 40% since I started doing it. And we've added probably 200 acres dang near. So if we continue down that path, that'd definitely be a way to continue. Be able to try to manage our inputs a little bit better, because that's a big thing for farming, and make sure we're buying at the right time and keeping an eye on that. That's been a big thing. This past year, inputs were pretty expensive. And make sure, keeping an eye on the market so we know when we're buying it and if it's a good time to buy, which a lot of times you're relying on other people to tell you that, your guys that are selling it, but hopefully buying it when it's reasonable, and if you can hit the middle, then that's the point you try to get to. Try to get the lowest, but sometimes it don't work out that way. I think, like Dad said, like a lot of farms, they go out and try to do different things. I don't know if that's something we're going to try to do. Maybe going out, we can kind of go like a direct to consumer or some sort of specialty vegetable crop or something. We have the ground for it, and it's a possibility, but there's some infrastructure that we'll have to have around to do some certain things if that's what we're going to do. So with that, with the infrastructure and stuff, getting some stuff set up, some bins or something, that way we'd be able to store some more crops longer. Historically, if you store corn, the price will get better. So if we can store it, that makes it a little better for us. We can sell it at a higher price. And with the bin set up, trying to make sure it's set up that way it works for us and works good for us, and makes it easy for us. So I'd say that'd be a 5-year. I don't know if you have anything you would like to add.
The one thing moving forward, I think it's what Kurt and I are. I don't really want to speak for him. He's
supposed to be
He
here.
was supposed to be here, but he's under the weather. Would be what I see. I think Kurt might agree with me, is that we see John taking a the decision-making role, and it really is happening right now. But making the day-to-day decisions. In 5 years, and it's already happening now. But in 5 years, it's going to be a long drawn-out plan. He's like, yeah, we're doing this year, this probably next year, and this year after. We're gonna, we get done. We know we're gonna, do all the fields, trim them, push the trees back. We're gonna go over here and remove this, and have a plan where I don't want to make that decision. I kind of want to be instructed to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. What do you think? And when can you be there to help? That's the key, because it takes a lot of labor to do a lot of things that we're doing, And it's the little things that eat your time up, It's running and getting the parts, just trying to keep the shop around, trying to make sure your equipment's fixed. You know, it's diversifying maybe a way and do things a little bit different. Maybe you partner up with people and do certain things that make sense for you. I mean, maybe you don't know if they make sense right away. Maybe you have to go down that road and see if they make sense. Maybe it works better for your situation than somebody else's situation, partnering up and doing things like that. So you have to have the courage. I mean, some people think the foolishness to try it. I don't know which one you want to call it, but I think one thing about being in doing the business through Technique Roofing and stuff like that, we did a lot. We didn't really take a lot of risk, but we did things that maybe weren't always comfortable. So, we started another company down in St. Henry. It wasn't always comfortable, but we were lucky enough to find the right people to do it with. And they were really good people. And I think like doing that and partnering up with somebody, if you can find the right people and they're good quality people, then they're the kind of people you want to, get on your bus. And the people you want in your corner. You never can have enough quality people in your corner or on your bus to get you where you want to go or to help you get where you want to go. And maybe you can help them in the same process. Maybe you both work really good together. And so I think that's what, being in farming, being in business, trying to do roofing, whatever it may be, you sometimes got to look beyond to what you're doing right here and saying, can I do better? Could I look at this and see how it could work out for me? Could I take the risk or put myself out there to see if it works? And a lot of people do that. A lot of people in business are successful doing that. Doing things that they're not always comfortable with, but yet it teaches them a lot of lessons that they would have never learned just by staying comfortable. Bless you. Just by staying comfortable. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but I look at it that way a little bit.
I think it makes sense. So a lot of people, they don't know anything about farming.
Hopefully them are all the people listening right now.
Like you guys are the experts of farming to these
really,
people.
I'm not really expert. How about that?
What is like? Give me a couple things you like about farming.
Well, the things I personally like, is just it's just that the ability to see something from nothing, watch it grow, and then harvest it. And you start with this one bag, and you end up with this humongous, something. Hopefully it's humongous, but it's a large harvest. You're actually literally producing something. You're putting something in the ground, and you're growing it, and you're producing something that hopefully that someone at the end is going to get some good use out of it, and hopefully you're going to make a little bit of money doing it. Mm-hmm. And so. Do I do it for the greater cause of feeding humanity? I don't know about that. I think it's for lightheartedness. It's really neat to see that happen. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, it's just trying to take a piece of ground that might need a bunch of different things on it. Maybe it needs a rock picked out, the trees pushed back, to get that ground into production, and maybe need tile in the ground, to have the, forward thing like, hey, we got to bury money. That's what tile is. We're burying money, So you go out and you bury money every 25 foot or 20 foot, and you tie it all together, and you have this faith and believe that this is going to help me produce more bushels for that one, for them per them acres, and you go out and you do all that, and then you start seeing it year 2, year 3, year 4. Wow, that really made a difference, and it's not an instant return, and you don't really see it. Maybe you're getting 35, 40 bushel one year, mm-hmm. and then all of a sudden, on a piece of ground we did some tile on, 1 year, if we have a super wet year, we wouldn't be able to get in there, and we get 45, 50 bushel after we planted late and tiled it. Huge difference. That's really cool. That's really neat stuff. You're really seeing a difference there. Mm-hmm. And you see your toils and all your work look like they could pay off, and it's fixing this piece of dirt that never really was really right. Whether the person that had it before you couldn't have the means or the affordability to do it or whatever it may be, but you went out there, you had a plan, you executed that plan, and you kind of see the results from it, and it's really, so that's really cool. And not only that, that's what I've done since I was 5, 6 years old. So it's pretty it's pretty cool to say something that you did when you were 5 or 6 years old, you do when you're this old. And you know, if I didn't do it, would I miss it? I don't know. I've never not did it, so I couldn't tell you if I would miss it. So.
What about you? I think some of the best parts for me is, working with your family is a up and downhill battle, but a lot more ups than downs. I feel like, especially with ours, and I'm able to be around a lot for my family. My son can go with us and do stuff, and like Dad said, be able to take a farm and be able to pretty much transform it into something that can be productive. We've done that this past year, and it's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling, and people talk about it. What you did, and it's good that what you did is being recognized. And
you mean like the local coffee shop people?
Yeah, local coffee. Yeah, I think at the coffee shop.
They might think you were a little crazy.
They thought I was crazy, but we did
it.
it.
They might be right.
Yeah, we did it, and like people are like, "Damn, like that's impressive." Like, and it took a lot of work to get to where it was, but yeah, I'd say that like being able to do it with your family, it is a great thing. Not saying roofing, you couldn't take your family with you roofing, but they can be there, they can bring you dinner, that kids can hang out with you, they can ride with you,
it's harder to take a 3-year-old up on a roof.
Yeah, and like I used to work.
I think it's an OSHA fine.
Yeah,
immediately.
Well, I feel like I was on a roof when I was probably like 8 or 9. So after a soccer game one time.
But
you were on the roof when we lost Ben one time. Remember? We were roofing. We lost Ben.
Yeah. So So that's in like I used to work weekends, midnight shift, and definitely can't take my kids in there. So to be able, I missed a lot of time doing that. So be able to do it now it's just a great feeling.
We had John's birthday party their day in the field.
Yeah, I'd say that's some of the best stuff. I mean, and I take a lot of pride in it. Take a lot of pride in being local, and I'm around a lot, and people.
You're a township trustee too.
Yeah, that too.
You must take a lot of pride locally.
Yeah.
To be a township trustee.
Yep. So it's just nice to be around and be local, and people be able to get a hold of you if they want something, and yeah, I mean, and people knew I shared a name with my grandpa, and that was a big thing for me growing up, was being able to do that. So that's another pride thing for me too on that. So yeah.
So would you recommend, if somebody's sitting home watching on the YouTube or on Spotify, because now they have video on Spotify, and they're watching and they're like, man, I think this sounds great. I'd like to get my hands dirty. I got a green thumb. I have a little garden in my backyard. I think I could be a farmer. What would be your advice to someone, in that mindset right now that's inspired by this podcast to become a farmer?
So you think we inspired somebody?
Yes, I would say, yeah.
I would say
I'm motivated. I'm on the edge of my seat. What should I do?
You should call me, get a hold of me, because I want your autograph if I inspired you.
You want their autograph?
I want their autograph that I inspired them. Yeah, right. Hey, how many people
I thought you were going to say I'm selling a farming course.
No,
it's $199.
How many times if someone told you they inspired you, if you inspired someone, I think you should write it down. At least the first dozen or so, you should write them down, because them are people you might want to, thank later or hide from, depending on how you finish out. So well, yeah, I don't know.
It's a different game getting into it now with all the big
I don't know.
Money in it.
Yeah, I don't know
like
if I'm not where at the position I was at when I was younger, if I'd be in the position I am now. So, my environment led me to this. But if like anything though, I mean, if you're willing and that's what you want, I didn't when I was little, I didn't say, oh, I want to make sure when I was 6, 7 years old, I remember thinking I want to farm my whole life. I never really. I thought everyone did it. So I thought the firemen went home and farmed. I thought the policemen did the same thing. I thought when they said showers on the radio in the morning, that was for the farmers. I didn't know it was going to actually, that was a forecast or something. I just remember thinking that. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to do it, my gosh, you live in the greatest place in the world. And if there's one place that you can do it, It's got to be, it's got to be here. You got to somehow be able to figure out if that's your dream. You should be able to scale it somehow, whether it be small, medium, or large. You should be able to scale your dream somehow. And obviously, as with any want to, things are not easy. I know starting when I started with nothing in a garage. I mean, how cliche is that statement in a garage?
It's like Steve Jobs over here.
Yeah, not Steve Jobs, just little old me. I wish I could have
With his computer.
been, and
I think you used the dairy barn reference. It's better than a garage.
yeah, the dairy barn. Well, we
Oh,
started in
it's
a
old
garage.
dairy
We
barn.
started in a garage, and then we moved to the dairy
dairy
barn.
barn,
Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, and that was actually Dad's dairy barn. So,
No, it's still a dairy barn.
so, but yeah, good luck, and I wish the best for you, and we'll pray for you, and hope you make it. But I think you will. I mean, there's a lot. I made it. I don't know why you couldn't. And it just comes down to hard work. It really does. Hard work and being committed and making some really good decisions and sticking to it, man. Man, that's the hardest thing to do, man. Not find the shiny objects. Stick to it. If you believe in what you're doing, you got to stick to it. You got to keep at it. You might have to keep at it for many, many years. I mean, what we're doing right now, our father did it for, decades on end. And he did it up to the time that he couldn't do it no more. And he still was doing it, That's what he did. And so no matter if that's your dream, you got to have that same, thought process. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I am, who I am, and I'm going to succeed no matter what.
So a couple things. First off, great Grandpa Widmer, did he farm?
Yeah.
With like so is this a fourth generation,
I'd
third
be
generation?
fourth generation.
Well, so Wendell Widmer, he was the original WWW,
Yep.
so that was his initials. He worked at
Pfizer.
well, it was like Dolite, and then it was like Pfizer, and it was several names, and I'm embarrassed I don't know all the names of them, what he worked out there, but I mean, he was the quintessential, like, wow, work swing shift, come home, raise cattle, feral pigs, had 1-row or 2-row corn picker. I mean, I think in later years it was 2-row corn picker. He farmed some of the most beautiful dirt there is. And lucky for us, he somehow found its way to us. What a blessing, I always say every time I'm over there. And but he farmed that piece for most of his life until he retired, and then Dad started farming it. He pumped oil wells, and he went to work every day. He worked on that farm, and he just showed us by example how you do something and work at it really hard, and you're gonna be somewhat. You're gonna have the success is not measured by you're way up here or you're way down there. Everyone's success is a little different. In my mind, he was highly successful by not living a just life, a Christian life, if ever a man ever did. And he had a lot of, he had some bad hands dealt to him. He had some bad hands dealt to him, in certain areas with, in his personal life, he lost a couple wives, but he never lost his faith. That's what he taught me. He never blamed or never talked negative about a person. Kept a diary every day of his life. I mean, I look at what that man did, and I feel that I can hardly measure up to him, because I just think he lived such a just life, and so yeah, Grandpa farmed, Grandpa worked, but what Grandpa left us the greatest gift of all. He left us how you live a just life, in my mind. You can't wrap that up. You can't give someone a bond and make up for that. You can't give someone $100,000. You got to live a whole life that way, and that's what he did. I highly respect him for that. I think the world of him. Lucky he was my grandpa. So, anyways.
So yeah, so he was that was the first part of it though. Like he was the first one to start farming.
Yeah, he farmed.
Yeah.
That'd be my mom's dad. And then my dad's dad farmed also.
Yeah, well, yeah, I knew that.
So there were 2 family farms right there, and they only lived a couple.
They're right next to each other.
Right next to each other, about 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
And the old joke was mom and dad meet in the cornfield in the middle. I think it was a joke. I have no idea.
Who knows?
Who knows?
And also another thing, it's so I don't even. Jake, you might have to look this up, but is stick-to-itiveness. Is that actually a word?
Did I use that word?
You use it a lot.
Okay, well.
I mean, it makes sense.
So let me ask you this.
I'm
I
31
get
years
it.
old, and he said a lot of words in our life that I don't know are real
Well,
words.
no, but this is
Okay.
an actual made-up but
Okay.
it's got a definition though.
Okay, think of it like this. 5
For the
years.
viewers at home, yeah, I
5 years ago, if someone said, I'm going to have a podcast, if I had have said that word, how many years ago? Someone would have been like, what is that? Did they do podcasts?
Oh, so you're cool before it's cool, huh?
Oh, that's
No.
another thing I gotta get.
I'm not saying, no, I'm saying stick-to-itiveness, whether you believe it's a word or not,
I think it's a word.
but if you do and stick to it, and you're sticking to it, I mean, look at basketball players. They stick to what they're doing. And the
Some
guy,
of them.
well, yeah, I mean, not everyone's successful, you know, it takes a little, but if you ask them, they'll tell you, I stuck to this, man. This is what my plan was. This is what I was going to do. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of guys that tried to do the same thing. They didn't make it. But I bet you with that work ethic and that stick-to-itiveness they used to try to make it to the top of the ranks, they were highly successful at whatever they did after that because they probably went after that the same way they tried to go after their other dreams.
Jake, did you look that up?
What's the word?
It's a
Oh,
word.
it is?
Man, that's disappointing.
It's a
I
word.
thought he was going to get it in Webster.
It's
So,
in the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
so
Really?
Stick to it.
yeah. In your college
The
education, what
usage
did
of
they
it's
teach
low.
you there?
It'll get high from the podcast and start trending.
Yeah, 70 people will use it twice.
I'm using it quite a bit. The other thing I was going to say was, I think, well, in a macro thing, like blue collar businesses and farming falls under that. I think the next 5 to 10 years, things are cycles. Things are
Sure.
cool, then they're not, right? I think this is the blue collar businesses and farming will be in the top echelon of that are going to become cool. So this is the big, the prelude of the cool part of the next 5 years of blue collar businesses. I'm just saying.
Is
I'm
that
just
why
putting
you're
this on
wearing a blue
video.
collar tonight?
It's the color of the Technique roofing. Well, I mean, I guess I've never even seen that before. That must be
This is something that I broke out for special occasions.
new. Yeah, that must be new. I've never seen that one. But I'm just saying, I can see when I'm around people that know nothing about farming, places, they're just so mesmerized, oh, what do you guys farm? And I'm distant from the farming thing. I grew up in.
All you gotta do is show up.
I understand.
Well, I mean, he
Okay.
could show up. I don't know if we put him in a tractor.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't want to be one. You know
up
how much
rocks.
I'm that's why I don't come because I'm devastated to be screw everything up in the tractor. We didn't have a good harvest because Ben screwed it all up.
It's that big strip through the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, he never even put the seeds in the ground. What an idiot.
He gives himself a lot of credit giving that job.
Yeah, I obviously I wouldn't want that job. But I'm just saying, people are they just can't believe it. They're like, well, what do you farm? Cash crops, and they don't even know what cash crops are, but they know it's they learned it in 7th grade, so they say cash crops, and I think it's a culture thing in America that's used to be everybody that did it back when you did it, more people did it than they do now. I would say population wise, it's shrunk. The industry has
Every year it does. Of course it does.
and I just think it's already happening a little bit with some personalities and social media, but I really think you got flipping houses was cool.
Yep.
I think farming is up next in the next 10 years. So
We really never. What we do, we never really worry about what's cool. You're too busy working and doing what you're doing. So, I feel I've been cool the whole time. It's just you guys are finally coming around my way. You know what I mean?
well, that's what I'm just saying. I agree. You got to let the world's got to come to you. Otherwise it's not authentic.
I think what's really going to happen in our industry is, you ask someone, where's your food come from? And it's they don't really mean it, but they'll say, well, it comes from the grocery store. And I think with what we got going on today and things like this and YouTube, you can really see where your food comes from. it's really cool. There's great documentaries out there where food comes from, and I watch a lot of them because I think it's really interesting stuff. But and the different practices, even in our country, what we do up here in Ohio is a lot different what they do down in Missouri or Louisiana or Mississippi with cotton and all these specialty crops they have. It's amazing. Yeah. It is truly, utterly amazing what we do when it comes to production of everyday items that you're using, and you don't even realize it. You should go out there and look them up and find them because it's pretty neat stuff. I just think it's amazing.
I mean, the way I see it is, sorry to cut you off, but like direct to consumer, everything goes to the consumer eventually. This industry, you go to the elevator. That's where everything goes, and that's kind of it. And then it gets distributed out from there to the who needs it, to the products. But when you're talking about like actual things people are consuming, I really think eventually you're going to be able to pre-buy a row of carrots at this garden and then have it for when it's harvested and go pick it up the next year. Like, it's going to happen instead of going to the grocery store even, because you don't know where that came from. It's at the grocery store. I have no idea. It probably came from across the way in Canada, or it came from Mexico. I don't know. China could have came from China. At least maybe it was owned by some Chinese people that own a business in America. But like, I really think you're going to be able to. It's going to get to a level of interaction between farmers and direct consumers where they're buying space that you're planning to consume directly. I mean, obviously, it'll start with like upper end things and eventually move down.
I mean,
so people get access.
You're definitely having it at your local markets right now. I mean, that's really, really popular.
They probably buy spots and stuff, which that would be great for the farmer because then you can get some up front.
Yeah, buying spots, like making like that's shaking and moving kind of deals. Like, hey man, let me get. I'm saying like it's gonna get commoditized. Yeah. The internet's gonna make it a level so the consumer can take advantage of it a little better.
I think maybe for your specialty stuff, but like corn and beans and soybeans, that'll probably never happen.
Yeah, I mean, Karen's not gonna buy soybeans.
Yeah, but like Dad said, kind of like our area where we live, our actual county for the state of Ohio, we have one of the best counties when it comes to different types of agriculture. We grow the most cabbage. We grow the most, I believe, pumpkins. There's 4 or 5 specialty
peppers.
4 or 5 specialty crops grown in this area that the state of Ohio doesn't even grow that many. Mm-hmm. And how you said people want to get more involved, and you're seeing that with like what's that camper thing where they want to stay on the farms? Boondocking. Yeah. So, like, people want to stay on farms, like, just for the night, their camper and stuff. Like, that's a huge thing.
They just want to get pictures on farms.
Yeah, they just want to walk around. They just want to walk through the rows of corn. And it's...
They just want to stay on this. It's called... There's a couple of dumb boondockers, like, one of them. But they just want to stay. They don't want no hookups. They just want to stay, hang out.
See it and be there and be
hang
like, out. We stayed at a farm in Ohio. Like, who the heck wants to do that?
And I didn't mean commoditize the industry. I meant decommoditization of it. So, like, right now it's commoditized, 100%. But, like, when you have a brand, that's the only thing that can separate you. So if you build out a brand of carrots and you have a story, our family, we're raising carrots, and then you show what you do, how you plant them, then there's a little bit of brand recognition, and I want to buy these carrots, and that's where it's going to come from.
Yeah, you're getting that a lot in the production of animal.
I was going to say,
it's already started.
Beef, and
just going to roll
grass fed, and whatever. It's there. You have to go seek it out. It is all there for you to do it. It's really easy for you to be provided with these services that you're talking about. It's happening right now. And it's just more people it has to be more important to people where their food comes from, what's in their food, and the marketplace is already set up for it, and it's able to service these people that got specialty needs and want specialty things, and they just got to go out and find it. It's there. It's already happening. It's happening on a real-time basis.
And that's where
it's really cool.
That's where the margins lie for the farmer.
That's where the big money's at.
Yeah,
you're not going to make the money selling it in bulk.
Yeah, like the organic stuff and all that.
I mean, it takes more work.
Yeah, but I mean,
but it just goes back to the whole thing. It does
take more work because you got to sell individual packages.
That goes back to the whole process of what if that's what you're going to do, that's what you believe in. Do you stick to it? Stick-to-itiveness. You make it work, and eventually people seek you out because you have this product that they're looking for. But it ain't going to happen overnight, man. You got to work at it.
Yeah.
Well, you got to build a brand too. What are you about? People like to see that. They want to buy it from people that they can relate to.
I mean, you got dairies doing it. You got a lot of guys doing it. So it's
Yeah, a
very
lot of
common.
dairies. That's another one. They're making their own creameries and milk and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of small. Like I know there's small goat farm, and they have live. Look at the goats anytime you want, man. They're there. What are they doing? Oh, let's look at the camera. That's the goat. I'm buying that milk from that goat. I can watch it anytime I want. I would not watch the goat.
Goats are a big thing, but so were alpacas at one time. So maybe goats will always be around. I'll see.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that people will like this stuff, and the couple that did it, they never thought it would be that big.
Goats is a big deal.
They never thought it would blow
Goats are
up.
massive right now.
It's a massive deal right now.
A 24/7 live stream of the animal. You know, like who thought that would be? I mean, people would be worried about like some creep looking at
Probably
them.
for all the dairy goats, not the market goats.
No, not the market goats. Yeah, they're not following them from start to finish. And market goats.
All right.
Well, thank you guys. Episode 8 of the Family Business Podcast. If you want to be a farmer, as you heard it here, Keith Timmons is the most expert farmer,
You are such a liar.
and he can teach you.
Can't teach you nothing.
But you know, he probably will do it for free. That way you can't rebuttal what he does.
For free. That way you couldn't sue me.
Yeah.
I'll say if there are people interested locally and they get a hold of you, yeah, they can come out for sure and we can show them stuff. I mean, that'd be awesome for them.
We got some rocks for them to pick up.
Yeah, they can really get.
Oh, so if you want to get an experience, when would you need them? Next year?
just whenever.
You want me to start signing people up?
Yeah, you let me know.
Well, thank you everybody for watching episode 8 of the Family Business Podcast. It's been a great time with Keith and John Timmons, my dad and brother. Thank you for coming on such short notice to share your knowledge with the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, such knowledge.